After years of heartbreak, Ilara finally agreed to have a baby via surrogacy. But one overheard conversation reveals her husband's dark secret and shatters everything she ever believed. Hope and plans. Ilara paced her apartment, clutching a folder of medical records against her chest. At 28, she was a project manager with a reputation for kindness at the tech firm where she worked. Though her days were busy with spreadsheets and meetings, her mind often wandered to the family she and her husband Ethan desperately wanted to start. They had tried for years. Ilara remembered sitting in a bright clinic office last winter, listening to a specialist's gentle voice. He had explained the risks. Carrying a child herself could be fatal. Surrogacy is your safest option now, he had said. Those words had felt like a thunderclap. Behind her gentle smile, Ilara was practical and resilient. Months after that appointment, progress was finally at hand. She and Ethan had found a surrogate they both loved. Her name was Natalie, a warm-hearted woman Ethan had known from college. Natalie had offered to help after her own heartbreak of losing a child and truly believed in giving others a chance. Ilara smoothed the paperwork on the table and let herself smile softly. "We'll have our baby very soon," she whispered to herself, touching a framed ultrasound photograph that lay beside the documents. In quieter moments, Ilara remembered how they had imagined this day for years. She thought of the day Ethan proposed to her under cherry blossoms, a simpler time when their biggest dream was starting a family together. The next morning at work, Ilara walked in with a spring in her step. Her coworker Jasmine, who sat at the next cubicle, looked up immediately. "Wow, you look radiant today. Good news?" Jasmine asked, smiling. Ilara leaned against her desk, heart racing. "Yes," she replied. "We just finalized the surrogacy papers. After so long, it's really happening." Jasmine's eyes lit up. "That's incredible, Lonnie," she exclaimed. "I knew your patience would pay off." Ilara felt warmth spread through her. Having her best friend share this moment made it even sweeter. That evening, Ethan cooked dinner at home. As the aroma of spices filled the kitchen, Ilara helped him set the table. He raised a glass of wine with a grin. "To our future family?" he toasted. Ilara smiled and clinked her glass against his. "To our baby," she said softly. Ethan reached across the table and squeezed her hand. "I love you," he whispered. Ilara's heart swelled with happiness as they savored the moment together. Later that night, with the kitchen cleaned and the house quiet, Ilara paused in the nursery doorway. Tiny socks, a pastel hat, and soft onesies lay ready on a rocking chair. One weekend, Ethan surprised Ilara with a trip to a baby boutique. They held up tiny rattles and booties, joking about colors and names, both of them lost in a life that still waited for them. For a moment, as Ilara slipped a soft pink booty into her bag, nothing in the world felt impossible. Everything felt right, and she could not imagine what was about to shatter. Shaken trust. Later that night, Ilara returned home from work to find Ethan's shirt not hanging in the closet. On the kitchen counter were 2 plates from dinner and a half-empty glass of wine. Confused, she called softly, "Ethan?" There was no answer. On the dining table, her laptop dinged with a notification. She frowned, moving closer. A message on the screen caught her eye. "Lunch in 15, at Cafe Milano with 2 names, one of them Ethan's." Her heart gave a jolt. Ilara picked up the wine glass. The lipstick stain on its rim was a shade different from hers. Panic fluttered in her chest. Just then, Ethan walked in, arms full of grocery bags. He glanced up and saw her startled face. "You're home early," he said, surprised as he set the bags down. Ilara held up her phone. "Who were you meeting today?" she asked quietly. Ethan hesitated. He took a deep breath. "It was just Natalie, our surrogate. She had a list of things about the baby's coming. We grabbed lunch, that's all." His voice was calm, but she noticed a flicker of something in his eyes. Ilara felt the knot in her stomach tighten. "You needed to tell me," she replied softly. He looked down, ashamed. "I know. I'm sorry for not mentioning it." Ethan reached out and gently put an arm around her waist. "Everything's fine, Alara," he insisted. "We're so close to the happy part. I just wanted to keep things smooth." She nodded slowly, forcing a small smile. "Okay," she said, not trusting her own voice. He kissed her forehead. "Let's not worry, okay? Maybe order takeout and watch a movie?" he suggested. Alara agreed, even as doubt whispered in her mind. That night, Alara lay awake for hours, staring at the ceiling. The silence of the house pressed in on her, amplifying her anxiety. She found herself whispering into the darkness, as if to the empty room, "I love you," hoping the words would somehow reassure her. Eventually, exhaustion claimed her. The next day at work, Alara tried to focus on the mountain of tasks awaiting her. Even reviewing a presentation felt impossible through the fog of betrayal. Her hands shook slightly as she scrolled through emails. She promised herself to find out the truth, but for now she needed to keep calm. Each deep breath reminded her that she was still in control. The meeting. A week later, on a sunny afternoon, Alara, Ethan, and Natalie gathered in a cozy office near the clinic to go over the final details. The room smelled faintly of lavender and paper. Natalie held a small bundle of baby clothes and smiled warmly. "I'm so honored to do this for you both," she said softly. Alara felt tears prick her eyes. "Thank you, Natalie. You're really giving us hope," she whispered. Ethan reached across the table and squeezed her hand. "I still can't believe it's real," he said with a nervous grin, leaning in closer to kiss her. They sat around a wooden table and signed the last of the paperwork amidst laughter and excited chatter. Ethan flipped through the forms one last time and closed the thick folder with a satisfied sigh. "All set," he announced. "Next week I fly out to the clinic for the transfer," Ethan confirmed, running a hand through his hair in disbelief. Alara nodded, her heart swelling with excitement and relief. Natalie beamed. "This is the best news I've had in ages," she said. Afterward, they shared a small picnic on the lawn outside. Natalie had packed juice boxes and cookies. Under the warm sun, they ate and talked about baby names and nursery decorations. Natalie even produced a tiny blue onesie and waved it at Ethan. Alara held up a small pink bootie. "I already see her in this hat," Alara said, grinning. Ethan nodded, eyes shining. "She's going to be so loved," he murmured, lifting Alara's hand to his lips. They laughed at awkward baby jokes and took silly selfies together. In that moment, everything felt perfect, like family. Alara felt more hope than ever, believing wholeheartedly that this second chance at a child was real. That evening, as Alara helped Ethan put away the picnic basket, she realized she had never felt closer to him. He hugged her from behind. "We did it," he whispered. She turned into him, smiling at the clear sky above. "Yes, we did," she whispered back. Doubts in the quiet. Weeks passed, and Alara settled into the rhythm of daily life. She buried herself in work and errands, and took small comforts in preparing the nursery. Each day felt familiar. She texted with Natalie about prenatal vitamins and tended to the green plants by the window that were finally brightening the windowsill. Everything seemed normal. One evening, after a quiet dinner, Ethan excused himself to take a phone call in the study. Alara washed the dishes and hummed softly. Through the thin wall she heard his voice, low and urgent. "She's 8 weeks now. That's perfect timing." Alara's heart froze. 8 weeks? She paused with a plate in hand. How would he know? I deported no. Without thinking, Alara stepped onto the balcony and dialed her best friend. "Jasmine, I'm really tired." "But did Ethan just say 8 weeks?" she whispered when Jasmine answered. There was silence. Then Jasmine's voice responded, concerned. 8 weeks? Lonnie, are you sure? Yes, I heard it, Alara continued quietly. He was on the phone alone. I know it sounds silly, but it doesn't make sense. The surrogacy just started. Jasmine sighed gently. I know this process has been wearing on you. Are you sure there wasn't a misunderstanding? I'm not making it up, Alara said softly. I trust Ethan. I should trust him." "Of course you should," Jasmine replied. "But if something's bothering you, keep an eye out." Elara closed her eyes and nodded, even though Jasmine couldn't see her. "I will," she promised. Elara took a deep breath of cool night air. Doubt had planted a seed in her mind, but she pushed it down and went back inside. Later that night, Elara found herself in a quiet chapel. Kneeling on a wooden pew, she clasped her hands tightly. "Please, let me be wrong," she whispered to the empty church. Sunlight streamed through stained glass windows, casting soft colors on the floor. Surrounded by peace, Elara felt a small piece of her strength return. Back at home, Elara kissed Ethan goodnight on the forehead. As she lay in darkness, Elara stared at the ceiling. Her mind replayed Ethan's words over and over. Sleep was elusive that night, and by morning Elara had not found any answers. But she forced herself to believe that everything was fine, reminding herself of the future they had planned. In that tentative hope, she finally drifted into a troubled sleep. Overheard truth. A few days later, Elara came home early from the office and was putting groceries away when she heard voices from the living room. Peeking around the corner, she saw Ethan and Natalie inside, speaking in low, urgent tones. "No, listen," Ethan was saying firmly. "This baby is going to be raised by Elara and me, exactly as we planned." Natalie's face was tense. "I carried this baby for 9 months, she cried quietly. "I deserve more than a paycheck and a thank you. And what happens when you throw me away afterwards?" "I never promised you anything beyond what we agreed." Ethan snapped back. "Once this is done, you'll sign off on everything." "Elara is his mother in every way that matters." Natalie's voice shook. "She doesn't know you lied to her." Ethan's eyes widened. "You promised, and I intend to follow through. This child belongs with us," he snarled, stepping closer. When Natalie sniffled back tears, she managed one more plea. "If you erase me from this, I'll tell Elara everything." Ethan's lips curled. "Is that a threat?" "Be careful with that, Natalie," he whispered. Elara pressed her hands to the glass, heart pounding like a drum in her chest. She could feel her legs going weak. Every instinct screamed at her to flee. Betrayal tasted sharp on her tongue. How long had this been going on? She thought, disbelief churning in her stomach. Elara sank to the floor behind the door, hiding from view. Cold sweat beaded on her forehead as she fought to remain silent. The dim glow of the hallway light cast long shadows across the living room. She dared not move, straining to catch every word. Each sentence delivered another blow to the trust she had placed in him. As Ethan continued pacing inside, Elara wiped a tear from her cheek. Her mind raced with questions and fear. Finally, the voices stopped. Elara took a shaky breath and slowly backed away from the door. She had heard enough, and she knew that nothing would ever be the same. Elara sat there in the darkness, letting the shock of each sentence sink in. She remembered all the quiet nights they had spent planning their family, all the promises that now felt like cruel jokes. Anger burned in her chest as grief took hold. "How could he do this to us?" she thought, voice silent. Slowly, Elara got to her feet and crept out of the house. The night air was cold against her hot skin. She needed to clear her head. Walking aimlessly, she made her way toward a nearby park. Elara sat on a cold park bench, hugging herself, and let the tears come. Each drop felt like a release of the pain inside. By the time the first light of dawn appeared, Elara wiped her eyes and took a deep breath. She had a decision to make now: face the truth openly, or let it destroy what little remained. Turning back toward home, Elara felt a strange calm. It was time to confront what was happening. Confrontation and confusion. The next morning, Elara waited anxiously as Ethan finished his breakfast. Her hands were tightly clasped on the table. Finally, she spoke. "We need to talk. Now," she said, voice trembling but fierce. Ethan's fork froze midair. "All right," he replied cautiously. Alara didn't beat around the bush. "I heard everything last night," she said. Ethan looked away, guilt on his face. "I heard you telling Natalie the baby would be raised with me. Explain that." He took a deep breath. "Alara, I was going to tell you. I needed time." "Time for what? What are you hiding?" she pressed, all traces of calm gone. Ethan closed his eyes. "This baby," he began softly. "It's not how you think." Alara's heart pounded. "What do you mean?" she hissed. "Of course it's how I think. It's our child." He shook his head slowly. "It's his child, Alara. Yours too, in a way, but biologically. I conceived with Natalie." The words hit Alara like a physical blow. "You cheated on me," she whispered, feeling her knees weaken. Shock. Ethan looked at her, ashamed. "I didn't plan for it," he said quietly. I was so desperate for a baby, I lost myself." Tears slipped down Alara's cheeks. "All those dinner dates," she accused, voice cracking. "The things you were doing in secret. Using her to have our baby." Her voice broke. "Why? Why would you do this?" "I love you," Ethan said, reaching out toward her. "I do!" "But seeing you suffer made me blind. I truly believed I was helping." Alara jerked away. "Helping? You deceived me. We could have found another way," he pleaded. "I know I made a terrible mistake." Ilara's voice grew cold, laced with disbelief. "A terrible mistake that ruined everything," she said, wiping away more tears. "I don't even recognize you anymore." "I'm sorry," Ethan whispered, tears in his eyes. "I'm so sorry." Alara shook her head, tears spilling down her face. "For me, it's too late." She took a shaky breath. "I love our baby, but I cannot love you anymore." He looked as if struck. "Alara, it's over," she said, final. Ethan's face crumbled. "Please, we can fix this," he begged. She shook her head firmly. "No, I will not be part of your lies." Ethan collapsed onto the floor, head in his hands. Alara turned and walked away, her heart breaking in a new way. She had confronted the truth, and now there was no going back. Breaking free. Alara woke the next morning feeling hollow. The quiet house seemed suffocating now. With shaking hands, she packed a single suitcase, a few clothes, her identification, and a photograph of happier times. Ethan offered no protest, only sorrow in his eyes. "Be safe, Alara," he whispered. She nodded silently and closed the door behind her. She spent the day with her parents in town, explaining through tears that her marriage was ending. They took her to lunch at a little cafe she loved when she was a girl. Her mother sat beside her and held her hand. "You did the right thing, sweetheart," her mother assured her. Her father gently hugged her, placing a comforting kiss on her forehead. "We'll be here for you no matter what," he promised. Alara managed a small, tired smile. They reminisced over old photo albums of family vacations, and her parents promised to support her every step of the way. That evening, Alara sat alone in a quiet motel room with her phone on speaker. Her lawyer's voice came through. "Based on what you told me, you have every right to divorce. I'll prepare the paperwork." She nodded, though he couldn't see her. "And what about our daughter?" Alara asked quietly. "Legally, we'll need to confirm your parental rights and possibly an adoption to make them official," he explained. "I'll push for joint custody initially. We need to show the court you'll be her guardian." Alara closed her eyes and clenched her jaw. At least someone was on her side. When the call ended, Alara sat on the edge of the bed, swirling the telephone cord in her hands. Despite the fear, she felt a strange relief. She wasn't alone anymore. She would make it through this, for her daughter's sake. That night, she finally let herself cry without holding back. The betrayal and grief poured out, but they washed away some of the pain. As she drifted off to sleep, Ilara vowed to rebuild her life on her own terms, starting with protecting her little girl. Legal struggle. 2 weeks later, Ilara found herself in the stark courtroom of the family division. She wore a simple black dress and sat at the plaintiff's table with her attorney. Across the room, Ethan was seated with his counsel, the man who once shared her life, now a stranger. The judge entered and quickly set the tone. "We will address the custody and divorce matters today," he stated. Ilara's attorney stood and began presenting the case. He laid out the evidence, Ethan's confession, the surrogacy contract, and even the lip-stained wine glass from that night. "Your Honor," her lawyer said, "Mrs. Stone has been honest and open. The defendant, by contrast, concealed an affair and a child from his wife. This betrayal is a form of fraud." The judge frowned as he listened. Ethan's lawyer tried to push back, but the surrogacy paperwork was signed by both parties, he pointed out. Ilara's attorney countered, "Yes, but Mr. Stone never disclosed that the embryo was conceived naturally. Mrs. Stone was never made aware of this crucial fact." The judge nodded slowly. For the first time, evidence of Ethan's deceit was placed squarely before him. Heck. When it was Ilara's turn to speak, she remained composed. "I want my daughter to have the best life," she told the judge. "That's why I'm asking for full legal custody, at least until I can formally adopt her. I will do whatever it takes to raise our child honestly." The judge noted her determination. After several hours of deliberation, he ruled on the spot. He granted the divorce and outlined the custody arrangement. Mrs. Stone will pursue formal adoption to secure her parental rights. Both parents are to have reasonable visitation, he said. Relief flooded Ilara. The system had acknowledged her pain. After court, Ilara and Jasmine took a slow walk down the courthouse steps. Jasmine pointed at a little cafe. "Lunch on me," she offered. Over tea, Jasmine asked what name they had chosen for the baby. Ilara revealed with a shy smile that they had picked Hope. Jasmine squeezed her hand, tears in her eyes. "She's a perfect name for such a strong little girl," she said. Ilara beamed. It felt good to speak her baby's name out loud now, freely and with pride. Walking out of court, Ilara felt oddly light. The legal battle had been exhausting, but this outcome was a victory. Outside, she found herself laughing softly with Jasmine as they planned a modest celebration dinner. For the first time in months, she allowed herself to believe in hope again. New beginnings. Life slowly shifted into a new normal. Every morning, Ilara woke up to the soft coos of her baby daughter. She fed her and held her close, marveling at this little life that had come from so much pain. At work, Ilara found new focus. She even took on a big project that earned her recognition. When her boss congratulated her on a promotion, she realized how far she had come, standing strong on her own. One Saturday afternoon, Ilara met Jasmine and a couple of friends at a sunny park. They laughed over picnic sandwiches and the baby's giggles. Jasmine clinked glasses of lemonade. "To your courage," she toasted. Ilara smiled warmly. She had been at the edge of despair and now was finally standing tall. Some evenings, Ilara would read by her daughter's crib, telling her little stories of family vacations and future dreams. Watching her daughter smile in the nightlight filled Ilara with peace. She also began writing about her journey online, hoping her story might help another betrayed spouse find strength. Each morning, Ilara and her baby watched the sunrise together from the porch swing. When the baby reached out and giggled at the first rays, Ilara's heart swelled with pure joy. "Good morning, my sweet Hope," she whispered, smoothing the soft hair behind the child's ear. In those quiet moments, everything felt right. Back at work, Ilara threw herself into her new role. She took on a leadership seminar and even volunteered to mentor a younger colleague who admired her strength. Each achievement, big or small, reminded her how capable she truly was. On weekends, Jasmine often brought her own baby over. One afternoon, they took a walk in the city park. Seeing Ilara push the stroller with determination, Jasmine said, "You're amazing, you know that?" Ilara smiled, tipping her head. "I have to be," she replied softly. The dappled sunlight on the sidewalk felt like a promise of better days ahead. Every now and then, a sad memory would surface, a song on the radio, the scent of baby shampoo, a photograph from their wedding. But each time, Alara let herself feel for a moment and then refocused on the future. She clung to every smile or coo of her daughter as a little victory. When her daughter said "Mama" for the first time, Alara clapped and cried tears of joy. In the days that followed, Alara caught herself smiling at seemingly ordinary moments. The baby's laughter, warm sunlight on the porch, or a reminder of how far she had come. The nightmare was behind her now, and a new chapter had just begun. In the stillness that followed, Alara understood that pain had changed her, not broken her. She would always remember the hurt and carry the quiet wisdom born of it. The baby's laughter filled her newly peaceful home, and she smiled, knowing this was the next chapter of her life, now written by her own hand. For the first time in what felt like forever, she truly felt peace and hope again.